Hi, this is Laura McSpadden here with Positive Force Movement with the third in our series of movements, drills, stretches that you can do to help your body be more resilient in the face of these stressors of protesting and marching. As I've been doing, I'm going to start with reminding y'all of the demands for the response to the murder of Daniel Prude by the Rochester, New York Police Department. Today I'm going to read directly from the People's Demands post. So starting with fire and prosecute. Bring criminal charges against the officers Mark Vaughn, Troy Talladay, Francisco Santiago, Andrew Spexler, Josiah Harris, Sergeant Michael McGree, and Paul Ricotta. Drop the criminal charges against all protesters who have been arrested since May 30th. Immediately prohibit the use of military-grade weapons by the Rochester Police Department. Cut the RPD's budget and fund community-led alternatives. Divest from Monroe County Jail and invest directly in the Black and Brown community. Pass Daniel's law, legislation that prohibits police from responding to mental health calls. The state must ensure that trained mental health providers respond in a mental health crisis. We are asking for the immediate resignation of Lovely Warren, Chief Singletary, that one's already been accomplished, and Deputy Mayor James Smith for their cover-up and failure to lead. And I'd like to add keeping an eye out for statements from Free the People Rock, particularly in regards to Museo and the Rochester Locust Club, to see what demands are forthcoming regarding their lies and bullshit. I also want to remind you all to please follow Free the People Rock, donate directly to organizers, and follow the drop-off locations, including Project Air and Spirit Room Rochester and the Rochester Street Medic Collective, regarding what items are needed and where you can bring them to help support the organizers and the protesters. With that said, today I'm going to talk about drills that are good for shoulder mobility and health, as well as thoracic mobility. Thoracic mobility refers specifically to the mobility of the portion of the spine that has ribs attached to it. That's the thoracic spine. It's kind of this mid-torso section. Why is that important? For a variety of reasons, one of which is it helps you be more comfortable if you're marching with a backpack on. Another that is profoundly important is thoracic mobility is very important for being able to take deep, full, diaphragmatic breaths, which is really important. Being able to breathe well is very important for healing and recovering from the chemical agents and weapons that have been used against protesters here in Rochester and in other cities around the country. The other reason, and the one that's most directly related to why I'm doing this, is the profound amount of shoulder mobility and thoracic mobility that is essential if you're going to end up getting handcuffed, which I did on Saturday, which many of my friends have gone through since May. And it is not uncommon for people to end up with rotator cuff injuries directly related to being handcuffed and or being held in handcuffs for an extended period of time. So working on your shoulder mobility and thoracic mobility is really important if you're going to be placing yourself on the front line. I'm going to give a whole series of different drills related to shoulder mobility and thoracic mobility. Some of these are going to work for you. Some of them aren't. Some of them are in a kneeling position, which may not feel good to some people's knees. So they might go with one of the others. I encourage you all to try these. And while you're trying them, remember that you have complete body autonomy. Don't move into pain. And if a particular one doesn't feel good to you, don't do it. try the others. There should be something in here that should work for most everyone. With that said, I'm also going to talk about another accessibility thing in regards to working with thoracic mobility that isn't explored enough or honored enough. And that is the way that drills that help improve thoracic mobility can increase gender dysphoria for trans people who experience chest-related dysphoria. A lot of the thoracic mobility movements involve heart opening, chest opening movements, which I can say from personal experience, prior to getting top surgery, could really increase my experiences of dysphoria. I'm going to share a cue that helped me with navigating those moments, and that was to take the focus of my attention away from the front of my torso and towards the back of my torso. So for instance, if instead of thinking opening my chest or opening my heart, if I think about moving my shoulder blades together to create armor over the back of my heart. First of all, that opens up even more thoracic mobility. Second of all, it has the empowering image of armoring and protecting oneself. And third of all, it moves the sensation from the front of my torso to the rear of my torso. So yeah, if instead of imagining opening your heart or chest, think about bringing your shoulder blades down and together so that they create armor over the back of your heart. It might also help with some of these. Some of these are going to be in a tabletop position, which can also feel more accessible to a lot of people who experience chest dysphoria. Some of them are going to be done lying down. If in the ones done lying down, it feels helpful to have a blanket or a bolster over your chest space or over your belly, somewhere to help you navigate that. Please feel free to explore that. And so with no further ado, I'm going to dive into the drills themselves. I'm going to move through them. I'm only going to demonstrate each one a few times because there's a lot of them I want to offer. If one doesn't work, like I said, just skip through it, go on to the next. So this first one I describe as, so you'll have your arms to the side. You'll push them forward. This is pushing a refrigerator away. Making fists, aiming the knuckles down. Pull, bringing the armor over the back of your heart with your shoulder blades until you have T-Rex arms. Push the refrigerator away. Fists, knuckles down. Use the muscles of your upper back to pull your shoulder blades together. T-Rex arms. So that's movement option one. That's one you can just kind of work into your day. Do a few of those after every email you send or every status you post. Should be really helpful. The next one is called halos. I'm going to demonstrate these both with just hands clasped and with a kettlebell. I know not everyone has a kettlebell, but it's such a great variation that I like to offer it as an option. You can do these. I find these work best if you are either in a tall kneeling position or a standing position. I'm going to do them in the tall kneeling position. If this is too much pressure on your knees, go ahead and try this standing. For either one, make sure that you kind of keep your pelvis zipped up towards your rib cage. So this instead of this. So you have that nice engaged abberdabbers, hands clasped together. And what you're going to do is, while keeping your torso and lower limbs in position, in place, draw a circle around your head, keeping the hands as close to your head as possible. And obviously several of these in each direction. I'm just doing 2 here for the purposes of time. You can do as many as your body feels inclined to. And again, if you happen to have a kettlebell on hand, don't use a heavy one for this. This is not a strength movement. This is a mobility focus. Start with the bottom up. And again, go around your head, keeping it as close to your head as you can. without moving the torso or the rest of the body. You can also work in a few, either with your hands or with the kettlebell, where you really allow yourself to hang out in this position here, armor over the back of your heart, and don't forget to breathe. So those there are halos, really excellent for shoulder mobility and thoracic opening. And now moving right along, I'm going to show YTWLs, purely a descriptive name in regards to the shape your arms make. I'm doing these in a tall sit on the ground. You can do these while standing. You can do these while sitting in a chair. You can even do these laying down, face up. So you can explore what position works best for you. All you're going to do is starting with your hands in a neutral position, putting your attention in the muscles of the upper back, bring your arms from neutral to up into a Y shape. And you can do a few of those, noticing the sensations, particularly of your upper back and all around your shoulder blades. So that's the Y portion of YTWLs. The T's, same idea, but you're bringing out to the side. Now with these, you'll probably notice some very similar muscles are being activated, but in a little different ratio, a little bit more probably between your shoulder blades and possibly a little bit more down into your lats a bit. So that's the T. The W, you start with your elbows flexed and you move out into a Y position. A W position. Even a little bit more with the lats here, a little bit lower on the back. And then from here, you can either go right from the W into the L, where each of the arms kind of forms its own little uppercase L, and doing that transition from the W shape, or you can go into the L shape from the starting position. Totally up to you. You can see which one feels best. Now, I demonstrated that doing several in a row of each. You can also absolutely do this one in a row of each, just kind of flowing between them. Okay, you can explore that. So I'm going to go back to a kneeling position. The next two I'm going to do are other ones that can be done either standing or kneeling. So if kneeling is not accessible to your knees, bring it on up to a stand. I am going to demonstrate these next two with a kettlebell because I have one here. If you don't have a kettlebell, I still encourage you to have something in your hands because it helps keep the shoulders down and provides a little sensory feedback. You're going to have something down at around waist height. It could be a can of soup, could be a bag of rice, could be a dictionary, whatever you have around. But this keeps the hands over the midline and makes sure the shoulders stay down. From this position, I want you to imagine that you have flashlights on the front of your hips and that they're going to continue pointing forward. So the lower part of your torso and your limbs are stationary. Meanwhile, you're going to look to the side, eyes lead the head leads the torso, and at each side of this movement, you're going to bring the shoulder in the direction you're rotating back. Some say I could rotate much further if I'm just kind of going willy-nilly. I'm locking in that lower part of the body and really focusing on one shoulder at a time, doing some rotations towards the rear. The next one starts, same exact idea, but now the weight's behind you, whether, again, it's a can of soup or a dictionary or a kettlebell. Really bring that down. If you've ever been in handcuffs, as many of you have, this is going to be a familiar feeling. You can actually hang out here and take breaths and practice letting your body relax in this position. What you really don't want, and in fact, I'm going to set the weight down because I really don't even want to demonstrate this weight, is to be in this position where you're in handcuffs and you're drawing your shoulders up and hunching in. that's going to put extra strain on your rotator cuffs. So practicing being in this position and allowing yourself to relax in it is going to help you get through that situation without adding injury to insult. So from here, same idea. Lower body stays where it is, and you're rotating eyes, neck, shoulder. To whatever range of motion is right for you. So those are all the ones in a kneeling position I'm going to demonstrate. I'm now going to demonstrate a few in a hands and knees position, starting with here in tabletop. Again, it's okay to have an extra cushion or pillow under your knees if that works for you. And you're going to bring one hand across the small of your back. From here, you're going to, again, rotate your gaze and open the shoulder of the side of your torso that has the hand up in the small of the back. It's not going to be a huge range of motion, probably going to bring a lot of sensations through the torso. You'll know whichever part of your torso is tightest while doing this. That is for sure. And of course, doing this on both sides. You might notice that one side is particularly tighter than the other. That is very common. If you do, my recommendation for doing these is to start on the tighter side each time you do it. Do a set there. Transition to the less restricted side. Do a set there. And then go back to the most restricted side. Do a second set there. That's going to help you kind of move towards more symmetrical shoulder mobility, which is a good thing. A variation of this that really helps focus it on the thoracic spine and minimizes the risk of it getting into the lumbar spine, the lower back, is to just sit back in your heels and do the same thing. You can do both. You could do one or the other. Again, very similar movements, slightly different ratio of which muscles are most activated and where you're most likely to feel the most intense stretch. Okay, let's see. Last one in a kneeling position. We're going to start here in tabletop and go down until you're on your forearms. From here, I'll do my right arm first. Bring your right arm across your midline. Place the palm down. Rotate your neck around so you're looking at your left foot or towards your left foot, depending on where your mobility is. Press through the right hand, rock back towards the heels. You can either hang out here in a static stretch and breathe, or you can rock in and out of this movement. And again, this is another one that obviously you'll want to do to both directions. Left hand crosses the midline over to the right side. Head gazes over, looks towards the right foot. Press through the left hand. Rock back towards the heels. Okay. That one's really wonderful for getting all along the side of the rib cage, the lats, getting the whole torso opened up. If you've been going through and doing each of these, you can even check in now and notice how your breath feels, how your torso feels, how your shoulders and neck feel. Hopefully a little more warmth and mobility to them. I am now going to transition to some that you can do in a side lying position. So for these, I recommend having a pillow under your head for comfort. I'm going to move these to the side. We're going to use those later. And I also recommend having something that you can rest the knee of your and shin of your top leg on. It does not have to be a foam roller if you don't have one. But it should be something, whether it's a pillow or two or a stack of books or whatever you have around. And that's largely because when I have this knee elevated on something, my hips stay stacked on top of each other. That's really important for the next two movements I'm going to demonstrate. If I don't have this here, what happens is that top hip shifts forward and it's no longer stacked on top of the lower hip, and that's going to put some extra strain on the low back, which is not what we're going for here. So something dense enough that when you put your top knee on it, it's able to keep your hips stacked on top of each other. From here, go ahead and with the hand of the top arm, find the bottom of the rib cage. That's going to be the main axis of rotation. And with that hand, I literally will grab and pull to rotate the upper part of my torso, bringing that top shoulder towards the ground behind me, only as far as I can with this knee staying in contact with the roller. Now, if you want, if it feels good to you, you can also open this arm out to the side once you get there. Take a few breaths. So pull the ribs, shoulder towards the ground, open out to the side. The second variation of this, you would also obviously do that on both sides. I'm going to move right and show the second variation of this on the other side, again, just for the sake of efficient timing. The setup is going to be basically the same. Head on a cushion, leg stacked on something so that the hips are right on top of each other. Arms now at a 90-degree angle. Okay? What you're going to do here is rotate, keeping the arms at this 90-degree angle and the knee in contact with the foam roller. And that's what's going to determine your range of motion, is however far towards the ground you can rotate that arm while keeping the knee in contact with the foam roller. Now, once you get to this range of motion, whatever you can access, you can also explore doing a little reach with the arm that's now lower and exploring different sensations and stretches in different arm positions, and then rotating down. Amazing for shoulder mobility and health. Okay. So I have only two more left that I'm going to show you for this theme, this topic, this video. The first one does depend on having a foam roller. So if you don't have a foam roller, you can fast forward a bit. It starts in a position where you have the foam roller right at the top of the shoulders. Your hands are going to support your neck. What you don't want to go into at any point in this is this hyperextension of the neck ridiculousness. So the hands are going to support the head. And while you're here in each position, you're just going to take a few deep diaphragmatic breaths. I'm only going to take one in each position for purposes of efficiency, but please note that what I'm about to show you is a sped up version of this. This is not your traditional foam rolling where you're going back and forth on it. So after a breath or two, or preferably 3 or 4, you'll move just a couple of vertebrae down, hands supporting the head. Take some deep breaths. Scoot yourself up a bit. Allow your torso to melt over the foam roller. It may not feel melty. It may feel any number of things. Probably a lot of sensation. Take a deep breath, roll a little bit further up, allow your torso to melt over the foam roller, take several breaths. And you'll do this really until you get to the bottom of the rib cage. You'll stop before the foam roller is kidney punching you. And then once you get all the way to that bottom of the rib cage point, you roll up and then start again. I would say do this 2 or 3 times, and that's really going to help open up the thoracic spine and the shoulders. And with that said, now we're on the last movement, which I'm going to show 2 different setups for. The one that some of you who have done yoga might have already experienced something similar to this is having yoga blocks set on the position like they're on the spine of a book, and positioning this one here so that it's right under the sternum. The head rests on this one. Again, we want to avoid this sort of cervical hyperextension. And then from here, the chest can open side to side, arms can rest. You can take deep diaphragmatic breaths in this position. Now, if you have yoga blocks, but the corners of the blocks are a bit much for you, you absolutely can put a blanket over them. That helps cushion. If you either don't have yoga blocks or you do have yoga blocks, but that is too intense of a stretch for you, have no fear. With 2 blankets, they don't have to be matching. They don't have to be yoga blankets, just blankets. You can roll one up, place it there, and then I just kind of fold the other in thirds. Place it there so they're parallel to each other. This one's going to go basically right under the armpits, and your head's going to rest on the other. And this is very gently accesses that same opening of the chest. You can hang out and breathe here. So there you go, a whole host of different options for improving shoulder mobility and health and thoracic mobility, so you can stay out there on the front lines while taking good care of your bodies. Thank you all for all of the work you do to make this a better world. And don't forget, follow Free the People Rock and donate directly to the organizers in your community. Thanks so much.